2016, the SAR as an Alpha chapter has aimed to provide its members with the best academic and career support by granting scholarships and fostering an inclusive discussion and providing our members with a high-quality event. Today, we'll discuss the topic about the career opportunities at the EU Delegation to the international organizations in Vienna. We are more than happy to welcome our guests who have extensive experiences of working and interning at the EU Delegation.
Now we are honored to introduce Alain Georges Matton, Press Communication and Public Information Officer at the EU Delegation to International Organizations in Vienna, with knowledge of career opportunities in Europe, and Alexander Ahlfont, a trainee at the delegation who is eager to provide our members with useful insights when conducting an internship in the EU Delegation to International Organizations in Vienna. After the speeches of our guests, we'll be holding a Q&A session and advice sharing opportunity where our audience is encouraged to ask questions concerning the topic. Now we would like to welcome Alain to the floor.
Yes, thank you very much for this nice introduction. And to see how important the trainees are, because his introduction was longer than my introduction, so that's already, I think, a very good sign. Thank you all for joining, and it is, yes, a little bit bizarre, but I think in the last 4 months now, we start to get used to do the non-so-personal meeting and webinars, and so thank you very much to wherever you are. Normally, when I go to speak, and I did that last time a few months ago, just before the confinement at university, the first thing I always ask to everybody is who went to look at my LinkedIn, and who went to look at my Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media I would be on, even TikTok, if I would be on TikTok. And because this is an important thing, is that when you want to prepare for something, and that is not only for a traineeship, but for everything in the world, and in your later professional life, is when you meet somebody or when you want to do an interview or whatsoever, is first to know with whom you're sitting. And I did that now also before we will meet. We were having this webinar, is looking on who of the two organizers, who they really were, and so that I know what it is about. And I think that is very important, and that is, I think, one of the major good advices that I can give you is be prepared. Be prepared when you apply for a job, but also when you apply for a traineeship. And that is what we will be talking about now. We have at the European Union different kind of traineeships which are only for Europeans, but there are also traineeships which is also for non-Europeans. And I think as Webster University has many international students, I think that is also a very important issue to discuss. So at the end of this webinar, Alex will post in the chat section the links to the website of the delegation, as well as the links to the website of the European Commission, where you can apply and where you get all the information on traineeships. First, I want to talk to you about the more general traineeship, and also a traineeship which I did before I started working. My first job was a trainee at the European Commission, and it was even in the information office of the European Commission in Belgium. So my career is like a circle of life because I started where I am now as well. And I have never been working outside the European institutions. Don't say that I have been all the time in the same place, but I have, my career has been all European and European institutions. So the Blue Book trainees, which is a traineeship which is available for everybody. So that means not only EU, but also other countries, third countries all over the world. And this is already something that is very long ongoing, I think already, well, at least already when I was a trainee a little while ago, it was already possible. And it is very useful because if you pursue an international career, or if you pursue a career abroad, or if you pursue a career even in a multinational or in an international organization, it is a good learning process because you know how to work with different cultures. We in the European Union, we are already, and in the institutions, we are used to work with different cultures, but most of you, yes, you have been with different cultures at university, but that is different. Working with different cultures is also different habits. And I have seen many enlargements of the European Union, and I have seen that in the beginning, when I started my career at the European Commission, that most of our meetings were in French. And since the joining of especially Austria, Sweden, Finland, we started more to use English. So even with the UK in the European Union, even the British officials were speaking in French in a lot of meetings, which is not the case anymore. So we also see the change in culture, the change in language, and that is something that is very useful for later life. And being a Blue Book trainee has taught me a lot, has taught me working with different cultures, working in an international institution, and that was really something that helped me way much forward and has helped me in my career later on. So that is a traineeship which is available for everybody. And this is organized twice a year, and it is for a period of 5 months. So it is from September until March, and March until July, if I'm not mistaken. But all the information you will be seeing later, or you will be able to see later. Then there is, and that is what also Alex is doing, we have 2 kinds of traineeships that we at the delegation and all the delegations all over the world are managing for EU nationals. EU nationals, that means if you have a double nationality, you still are an EU national as long as you have an EU passport. And there we have 2 kinds of trainees, and we have the paid trainees and the unpaid trainees. And the paid trainees are trainees who have already or at the end of their study career. That means they have at least already a bachelor and they are on the way or doing a master or already after their master. And these traineeships are paid and this is organized also twice a year. And there you can apply on the web. You have to look at each website of each delegation where you are. So wherever you are in the world and you are a European citizen, look if there is a delegation in your country, and most likely you will have a delegation because the European Union is represented in over 142 countries. And that means that most likely in your country there will be a delegation. And these delegations are publishing twice a year, and it is more or less the first half of the year and then the second half of the year. Then we have also the unpaid trainees. And the unpaid trainees are trainees that have which have to do an internship during their studies. And this is something that you should be bothering the administration of Webster University with, for us then in Vienna, or for example, if you work at Webster University, or if you study at Webster University in the States or in the Netherlands or wherever there is a Webster University, look, well, sorry, not in the Netherlands, because that is in the inside of the European Union, I'm sorry, because the delegations are also only outside the European Union. But wherever you have a Webster University outside the European Union, bother the administration of your university asking if for your internship, whatever is obligatory for you to get to your master degrees or bachelor even, to contact the delegation, to contact the administration section of the delegation, or even write to the ambassador, the EU ambassador, to see if internships will be or could be possible in these EU delegations. Why is it so interesting and so important to do these internships? And Alex will tell you that. Even during COVID, Alex has been working a lot. We are not seeing you, if you do an internship, as an intern. We see you as a full staff member. That means that we are sending you to meetings, to make reports in meetings, to write articles, of course, always under supervision, but you will be considered as one of our staff members. And if you are really willing to work, and I can also say that is not always the case, but if you're really willing to work as a trainee and really want to learn something, then you will get a lot of work to do. And you see, now it is Saturday and Alex is sitting here, and it's not his first weekend that he is working. Of course, we cannot force him to work on a weekend, but you know, I think this is much appreciated, and it also gives opportunities later, because, and that I want to end with, is that internships are very important, but having a real job is even more important. And I have seen many CVs of young people who are applying for internships, who have done one internship after another. And for me, being an intern is just a short phase in your professional life. If you want to be professional and you want to be ambitious, then you can do one internship, two internships, but then that it is. For me, if I see somebody with a lot of internships, and like 4 or 5 internships, and even that person could be very good, I will not choose that person. And for 2 reasons: because it is time to get the real job, and you take away the possibility of somebody who is just finishing his master degree or her master degree, or want to do something in an international organization. You take away that opportunity. And that is why I always encourage, and Alex can say there's something more about, I always encourage for our traineeships to, after the traineeship, to try to find a job. And I just give some examples. Before Alex, there was a girl who was a trainee at the delegation. Now she's working as a press officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Austria. Before Alex, there was also another trainee who is now working on nuclear issues for the division, the nuclear division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Germany. So there is possibilities, and Alex also applied for a job which we recommended him very strongly, and I hope he will get it. But he is one of the two final people where they are now verifying the references. That means it is very useful to do a traineeship, but it cannot be seen as we do one traineeship after the other. And I think that is, I want to end there, and then with this message. And if you have then further questions after Alex has talked, we can go further into detail about the traineeships and maybe good advice or things to do and not to do for your future careers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alain. Alexander, would you like to give your experience now, and then we'll move on to the Q&A?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the floor. Yeah, thank you to all at SIR and Wolves University for inviting us to this event today. Yeah, as you said, I'm a current trainee with the delegation of the European Union to the international organizations in Vienna, specifically with the communications and public information section with Alain as my supervisor. Yeah, I've been asked to speak a little bit about my experience as an intern, and I thought that would be quite relevant since this is actually my third traineeship. Alain won't like it, but I made my best to convince him anyway. So yeah, I thought I would also give a bit of a background and talk about my previous traineeships, which have also been relevant for my current one. And then I will also give a few a little bit of personal advice that I would consider valuable for the hiring process and for the successful conduct of an internship. So I am a recent graduate in law. I studied law in Stockholm, Sweden. But I always dreamed of working as a diplomat and working with the foreign service of my own country. So the first internship I did was with the Swedish Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and this I did within the frame of my university curriculum, and I really recommend that to anyone who has the possibility to do a traineeship within the frame of your academic career, to do so. And as Alain already said, there's the option to do that with an EU delegation, which is then the unpaid traineeship. Yeah, to give you a bit more insight in my internship there, so this was my first internship, and I applied for more than 20 posts at the ministry, and was lucky to get one of them. So yeah, I would say my advice there is just don't give up and really try your best. Yeah, I mean, there's always a bit of luck needed anyways. But making this first step into the job market, so to say, or the internship market is something that I think was very valuable, because leaving the MFA, I had two very nice recommendation letters in the back, and was, so to say, more attractive in the next hiring process. So my second traineeship was in Vienna with the International Atomic Energy Agency, with the IEA, at their legal office. So going a bit back to the roots of my actual academic background. And from there, I just did a very, how to say, short leap to the delegation of the European Union in Vienna that works towards the International Organization of Vienna, which, including the IAEA. So this was kind of a natural or a good match, so to say. But the funny thing about that was that when I started as a trainee at the EU delegation, I was sure that they were gonna assign me with the IEA file, and that I would be going to a lot of meetings with the IEA and write reports on, nuclear safety, nuclear security, and all that the IEA works with. But I was actually asked by Alain if I wanted to work with communication, and I thought, why not? And actually, I think that if you want to become a diplomat, it is very useful to have a very broad, to not be too specialized in one certain field, but to have more a broader experience when you start your career, and therefore I was really interested in working more with communication. So that's how I ended up with Alain, and I don't regret it a second. Yes, and now I will move on to talk a bit more about the actual application process at for traineeships at the EU delegation, or at EU delegations in general. I don't think that it's too different from most other application processes. As Alain already said, there are the paid and the unpaid traineeships, depending on whether you already have a university degree or not. What would be a bit special about the hiring process, I could mention that the EU uses these standard format CVs, Europass so-called, but that you can read more about on the links that I will send you soon with the current vacancies for EU delegation traineeships. But something that you should really be prepared for if you apply for a traineeship with an EU delegation, and if you get the chance to participate in an interview, is that the interviews are very knowledge-based. So it's really required that you have an idea of the role of the EU in the world, and how the EEAS, the European External Action Service, works, and also about the country where you want to work in, or in my case, the organizations you want to work towards. So yeah, it's a very knowledge-based interview, just to prepare you for that. And I also want to repeat one of Alain's advices, is to look up the people you're going to talk with, or that you're in touch with on social media. That's always useful to get a sense of who is going to be on the other end. Okay, I'll now go a bit more deeper into the insights I've made working as a trainee for the past 4 months with the EU delegation in Vienna. I would say that in general, being a trainee with the EU delegation, you get the unique insight of how multilateral cooperation really works. Because we get to assist our colleagues a lot with the meetings with the EU and all of its member states, and there you can really see how hard it can be sometimes to find a consensus among all these 27 member states. But also you see, something that I find is the beauty of the multilateral cooperation and this international spirit, I guess. And then personally, I've gotten a lot of insights in how the communications and public information work of a diplomatic mission looks like. My main tasks have been mostly to actually develop concepts for our public outreach in general, but also for specific outreach events of public diplomacy and cultural diplomacy. I've also been maintaining contact with our partners in this regard, and also done a lot of work with social media. But then again, I've also been given the chance to help out at the UN section, at the section that is working with the political questions of the international organizations in Vienna, or UN-related organizations. And there the tasks have mostly been note-taking at meetings and report drafting. So good writing skills are definitely required, I would say. Another point I want to take up is the networking part of internships. This is really, I would say, one of the most important parts of an internship. Yes, you are, or I would say in all three of my internships, I really have felt that I was part of the staff. But at the same time, you have to be aware of that as an intern, you don't have too much responsibility. It's, always a time-limited contract, and what you want to get as an output from the internship is really the contacts that can help you with further steps in your career. So don't be shy, and don't be afraid of talking to people, asking them what they're working with, asking them for help, asking them about what they would think would be a relevant next step for you for advice. That's I think a very important part of being an intern. Yes, I would also just leave you with a very, very general advice from myself, and that is just to always give your best. When you're working, work hard, because that's what is appreciated. Showing own initiative, that's not always easy, but it really pays off. Shows that you're ambitious, and that is really how you can get, how you can, let's say, leave an internship, but having left the memory of you there, and this can really be valuable in the future. So that pretty much sums up my presentation today. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to answer your questions now in the Q&A sessions. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Alain and Alexander, for your speeches and the sharing session. To the audience, this is the time to ask any questions you have to these two wonderful gentlemen. You can do this by digitally raising your hand in WebEx, and we will unmute you, or you can write your question in the chat. So we will give you a couple minutes to do that. To get started, I wanted to ask a question to the both of you about your organization, and for the both of you, what is it like day-to-day working? Like, what does a day in the life look like?
The day in the life of a diplomat. It's fun. It's not a 9-to-5 job, that's for sure. And what I like the most about it is that you are involved and you see results. For example, when I was not in a delegation, but then back at headquarters, for example, I have organized summits where 53 heads of state or governments were, and I was standing next to Putin and the Chinese president, and I could say no to somebody to come into a meeting who was not invited, and which was a president of a country. This is something that gives you satisfaction, because when, for example, a president of the European Council or the president of the Commission or big boss, the High Representative, read a speech or there is a press release from him, and you read it and you see that, for example, nothing or little has been changed in what you have prepared in the draft, that gives you satisfaction. That gives you a real result, and it gives you also the feeling that you have accomplished something and you do something. I still remember when I was working in Brussels for the External Action Service, we were organizing the ASEM meeting, that is the ASEM Summit, and that is the Asian Europe meeting, and that is all the EU member states plus Asian countries, but the Asian countries is from Russia to New Zealand. And there are three important pillars, and one of the third pillar is the cultural pillar. And when I was asked to do the cultural part of the summit, at the end, everything that I've almost written was there, and that gives satisfaction, and I think that is a good thing. And also, you learn a lot from others, and I think that is a very good thing as well. And also, which is the fun part, there are a lot of receptions where you can go to, and especially when you are a trainee, you know, the trainees love to go to receptions, and I'm sure Alex will tell when he was working at the agency, he was looking on the calendar where there was a reception somewhere at the Vienna based organizations to have free food and drinks. So that is also a fun part of it. But I think the most important thing is you know, you learn a lot, and especially because you meet a lot of different cultures, other people, and that is why I would recommend a career in foreign relations or in multinationals. I think that is very, how can I say, intellectual, even very enriching.
Shall I answer on my part right away? Yeah. Okay. No, I can actually only agree on what Alain just said. I think also that the main advantage of working in this environment is that you get to know people from all over the world, and you can learn something from anyone basically. But also this the fact that unexpected things happen. I mean, as an intern, you don't get to stand next to Putin, but you still get to participate in these receptions that Alain mentioned, and yeah, you don't. I mean, I've been to a few, but you don't always have time for that. So yeah, when there is time, of course, you can enjoy, and this is of course a great networking opportunity. Yeah, so definitely an environment where you can learn a lot.
We have a question from Vienna and Alexander. He asked about your interview process, like how did you prepare for it? Because you had stated that it was a very knowledge-based interview, and he wants to know if you went beyond what you learned in school to prepare for it.
Okay, to answer that question, as I said, I studied law and had courses in European law. So on the basics of the functioning of the European Union, I just had to refresh my what I had previously learned, I guess. But I would also say that a very important thing is to keep up to date with you know, daily news, what is going on in the world, and what the EU is doing right now. Because of course I was asked about a lot of the priorities and the EU's position in specific questions related to the work of the international organizations in Vienna. So yeah, that's what you should prepare for, I guess.
Maybe I can add something, because doing the interviews or taking the interviews, I think I can give you some tips. First of all, you are selected already on the basis not only of your CV, but also on a motivation letter. So make sure you write a very good motivation letter, to the point, not too long, and in good English, without any mistakes. It should not, the motivation letter should not be a resume or the romancing of your CV, because that you can see. The motivation letter is really, why do you want to work for the European Union? Why do you want to work for the delegation of the European Union? And that is already your first step. The second step is, and that is not only for interviews for traineeships, it's for all the interviews. And but we, like we said, the trainees are part of our staff, and there is not much difference between how we conduct the interviews for a staff member than we conduct the interviews for a trainee. And what is already very important is that for whatever interview you go, or that you are called for, or is, know who is calling you. Meaning, know what is the European Union. Know what is the delegation of the European Union to the international organizations in Vienna. Know what we are doing, and with whom we are doing things. And like Alex also said, what is on our plate for the moment. And I cannot understand, and we have had trainees that are doing interviews, or even become trainees because I'm not doing the interviews, and don't have Twitter. And on Twitter, you know everything what we are doing. I have been tweeting while we were sitting here. I've been tweeting twice already. And Brandon will know because Brandon has already liked my tweet about the webinar. So that is already a good thing. But he would get good points from me if he would apply for a job as a trainee. But it is also important, but for example, I just tweeted while we were talking about the Iran deal, because there were, it was the 5th anniversary of the Iran deal, which was concluded here in Vienna, and where we having the joint commission of the GCPOA very regularly, and the United States has withdrawn, so it has caused a lot of problems. And if you don't know these things, even though if Alex applied, and I think he was even chosen because he had the experience at the agency, and also because everything that is Iran related is related to the agency. So we chose a little bit also Alex because of his traineeship that he has done before. That means he was immediately operational if that would have been the case. But we also give the trainees, when they are working, we have 4 trainees. I asked the 4 trainees who wants to work for communication, who wants to do, besides what you are being assigned to, work for communication. And we let the choice to the trainees. Alex chose me. I didn't choose Alex. I asked to the 4 of them who wants to work in communication. And that is a good thing, because like Alex also said, try to broaden your horizon. I studied law and I do communication, and I'm organizing cultural diplomacy events. If everything goes well, we will have a pop concert if there is no confinement. But we organize, so it is so much variety. And when I studied law, I was thinking of becoming a lawyer, and go every day to court and whatever. And I never set foot into a court, luckily for me, because I'm not a lawyer. And I think that is very important, and that it is important for whole of your career, not only for interviews for traineeship or whatsoever. Make sure you are well prepared, you know what you are doing, and especially don't be afraid to do something different. And even now with the whole COVID pandemic, we were on lockdown, we were working from home. And another thing that I wanted to say that Alex was talking about, be ambitious and take initiative. And we have had 4 trainees during the lockdown. And I have to say, and it's not because he's sitting here, but Alex is the only one who worked every day. And when he was asked to come into the office, even during lockdown, because we had a live stream event on a Saturday, he was there, no questions asked. So I think that is very important, and that will be also later, if you are now in the diplomatic service or in whatever a company, this is at the end always compensated in one way or another. And I think that is very important as well.
I have a question for you, Alain and Alexander. So I know a lot of people from the international relations field, and a lot of them want to work either in politics or specifically in diplomacy. But the problem is that I would say even the majority of them are kind of discouraged because they don't believe that they can make a vast impact, even if they get the best company, the brightest minds, the most initiated people. What would be your say on that? So what would you say to those people who kind of willing to work in diplomacy and politics field, but sometimes I would say they are put under question career in such diplomatic or political services? So what would be your opinion on that?
And maybe I will go first, and then I think Alex can say his experience, and he already talked about it, is don't be afraid. Like Alex said, you apply, there are many doors closing, but one day there is a door opening. And look for the opportunities. So that means if you want to work for an international organization like the European Union, then you need to know where to look and what to do to get a job there. The same for the UN. That means there are on the websites, and for example, for the European Union, you have EPSO. Register with EPSO and create your profile, and then you are invited to all the possibilities to do exams and to do temporary jobs and so on. And the same with the UN. With the UN, you create a profile, and there are many opportunities. But what is also important is not sit and wait until something comes to you. Go and look for it. And maybe it's not what you really want, but it will open other doors. Like Alex said, is your traineeship is also networking. And for example, why not work for an NGO or Médecins Sans Frontières or whatever, because they are working with UN money. They are working with, well, the UN money doesn't even exist. The UN gets it from the member states, and one of the biggest donor, or the biggest donor, is the European Union and the member states as such. So that brings you in contact with international organizations, with countries, and so on, and it gives you also, like the trainee that I said is working now for the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's because he was a trainee, he learned about a temporary post that was open, then take it. Don't be afraid to apply. If you get it, you get it. And even if it's just temporary, like Alex also, he applied now for, and I hope he gets it for the 2-year job at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Sweden in Vienna. And if you get it, yes, but that is 2 years of working experience. And in these 2 years, you can meet a lot of people, do a lot of networking. The only thing I would advise is, if you are hired for 2 years, don't leave after 6 months, because then you blow up bridges. You can leave before your 2 years if something is coming up, but you have to do it always in your way. The ways have to be separate in a good understanding and in friendship, because it can hurt you way much more, and that's as much for the private sector, and I think even more for the private sector, but also for the public sector, because it will be known. People will say this person is not reliable, and so on. So the thing is, don't be afraid, and if there is really a good opportunity that presents itself, then take it and try, and never stop trying. And now that is why I'm also saying, it's like, yes, you can do your traineeships, but don't go from one to another. Try to get the job. If you fail, don't be disappointed. And yes, a lot of people will fail, that's for sure, because they're, for a traineeship, can you imagine, for a traineeship, we only publish the application for 1 week, because in 1 week, for 2 posts, we get 500 CVs. So a lot of people will be disappointed, but it can happen, and do it. And one day you will be you will get lucky. When I did my traineeship, and that is, I think it was easier times, most probably, I was not chosen, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, "Are you still interested?" So I think, and that is with everybody like that, but never be disappointed and never be discouraged or disappointed that you didn't get anything. It is stand up again and do it again. Alex.
Yes, I can again agree what I was just saying. Yeah, endurance is really the key in this working field where we have a lot of competition, as you're aware of. So that might be a bit discouraging when it comes to that. But also to go back to what you were asking about, Anna, that people are discouraged because they feel that they can't make a difference on an individual level, as I understood was a bit of your question. Yeah, this is something that I also hear from a lot of people, even from trainees. I've heard that after or during their first traineeship, they already get that kind of scared, and they see this big bureaucratic machinery in front of them where they feel they can't fit in and make a difference. But I mean, I totally understand that, and it always makes me think, this will sound very cheesy now, but if we take the UN as an example, I always think of an old Swedish Secretary General who said that the UN was not created to take mankind to heaven, but to save it from hell. You know, in these times where multilateralism, which we are working with a lot, is being threatened in many parts of the world, maybe it is worth to maintain this, you know, bureaucratic machinery, despite it looking so scary. That's a bit of my thought and what I've always told the people that I've been talking about this with. Thank you.
We have a question from Brandon again. Thank you, Brandon. He is asking about how the Webster Career Office is always encouraging students to call people at organizations to discuss one-on-one about their organization and what the organization is doing. And they call this information interviewing. And he would like to know would you encourage students to do this to learn more about the delegations, or simply by reading social media or the news, is that more effective?
I think use everything. Use everything what you can have. If you know, ask you to your colleagues who have experience. It is you know never too much, and don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid also to say you don't know, because it's better to say you don't know than to give completely a wrong answer. And don't apologize, just say I don't know, that is not my field or whatsoever, and that is way much more appreciated than you try to figure out something. But don't be afraid to ask to professors, to your professors, to colleagues, to even to go to the delegation or ask questions to the delegation as such. You know, if you are interested, don't be afraid of writing to the delegation to ask more, you know, about traineeships or how job opportunities. You know, we don't bite, and others don't bite either. And I think, you know, you never ask too much or you never read too much. I think take everything that is important, and you will get there.
Okay, are there any
So I have
questions? Okay.
Let me go with the last one, please. So I have a question regarding languages. So when you're reviewing CV, do you pay specific attention to the languages section on CV? So would you consider some languages more important than others when considering CV for a person who would like to work in EU delegation to international organizations?
Languages is very important, and it's depending on where you work, which delegation, and for example, if you work, I have worked, for example, in the delegation in Indonesia. If you apply for a traineeship as a European graduate, it's good to speak Bahasa Indonesia. You know, for us in Vienna, yes. Is it good to speak German? Yeah, I don't speak well German, but is it important to speak well English? Yes. Is it important to write well in English? Yes. And that is if you work for an international organization, for the diplomatic service, languages are important. And the more language you speak, the more chances you have. I speak some languages, but also because my mother tongue is Dutch, Flemish, I'm not getting very far with that. So I have to learn other languages. And yes, I was sent to the delegation in East Timor because I spoke Indonesian, but also because I spoke Portuguese. Unfortunately, I will not be posted in Buenos Aires because I don't speak Spanish, but Alex speaks Spanish because he did Erasmus or exchange in Argentina, so he will be having a chance to do so. So languages are important, and if you want to work for a diplomatic service, yes, learn something else than only English. You know, if you can have opportunity to, you know, I have we have had a trainee. She spoke Mandarin, and she's now working for a diplomatic service in Beijing. And that is very important. Multilingualism is very important, even though that everywhere everybody speaks in English, but it's also very good to be in a meeting where others are saying something and thinking you don't understand, but you still know what they are doing. And I have been in a meeting like that where a minister said how stupid I was, and I let her say it. And then after that, I said in her language, I'm sorry, very good, but I understood everything you said. So she was more embarrassed than I was of having heard what she said. So.
Well, thank you very much. This has been all very enlightening. If Alexander could post those links, I think our members would be very interested in learning about more information of posts available and vacancies. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Just saying good luck to everybody. Don't be afraid to apply. Don't be afraid of taking chances. And if you have questions, don't be afraid also to email us or send, like you did, you invited me through LinkedIn. So that is a way of contacting me as well. If you have the opportunity, I go sometimes speaking at the Webster University, also in Vienna. I was going to go and speak also on public diplomacy, but that was apparently a little bit postponed with everything what is happening. But continue following us. We will publish traineeships. We publish new posts that you can apply for, and don't be afraid and don't be discouraged in whatever way. And everybody, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Anna?
We would like to thank our guests for joining us today and sharing their knowledge and experience. Thank you, dear audience, for joining us. The SAR Alpha chapter is honored to hold such thought-provoking discussions and do our best to help our members with career and academic life, and we're aiming to support you as much as we can.
Stay tuned for the rest of our summer series. Next Saturday, we will hold our last webinar for July, talking about career opportunities in international civil service, internships, and the UN experience with Magdalena Copal and Christina Carey from the Special Tribunal for Lebanon.
If you haven't yet, please join our social media websites, namely Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, we are very happy to announce that soon our website will be launched, so you can be permanently and fully updated on each and every of our events. We hope to see you on our upcoming events. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.